I bid you all good morning, good evening, and good night, wherever you may be watching this transmission. It is I, Mike Martins. Guys, I need to bring up a very important article. I received an email yesterday from a gentleman who's been watching my channel for about 4 years now. And he's been watching it closely because of housing affordability. Will it come back to affordable levels? Basically in the email, he said, Mike, will wages go back to where average housing is? Because I need to know, because I'm going to be homeless. So he's been watching my channel for about 4 or 5 years, and he basically emailed me again to tell me that at the beginning of next month, he will be homeless. He's 70 years old. He's worked in a mine 30 some odd years. He does get a mini pension, not much, and a little bit of a union pension, but it's not enough to pay the rent. He can't afford to leave the City of Vancouver. He can't afford to get out now because all transit's closed, and he is facing homelessness. So this article was sent to me this morning. It's like, perfect. I'm going to read this, and I want to create awareness. This article's from March 26, 2018, but it's happening now, and it's happening every single day. Unable to afford rent, some Vancouver seniors choosing to take their own lives rather than become homeless, advocate says. This is very true. And this is something that's being very underreported, but not on my channel. Oh no, this is front and center, full stop. So, seniors that have dedicated their entire lives and have dedicated to the infrastructure that was built. The infrastructure, whether they paid taxes on their wages, whether they helped build the roads and the buildings, whether they were even working like the gentleman that emailed me in a mine all his life. Because he contributed to whether they were exporting the minerals or doing whatever they were doing with the minerals at the time. Who knows? But he contributed, okay? He didn't fight in no big wars, but he still spent his life making the country what it is today. And it's turning into, when it comes into the social aspect of things, it's turning into a nightmare for a lot of people. Infrastructure, there's roads. Heck, for every homeless person in Vancouver, there's probably 3 or 4 empty units. Maybe 10 empty units sitting there. And people are saying, well, Mike, you expect to give up a brand new condo unit owned by an investor so a homeless person can live? No, he's getting a pension. But his pension is nowhere near where it needs to be to pay basic rent. Because when the pensioners at the time were doing the math, they didn't figure that people, when they reached a certain age, everything was just going to be unaffordable for them. Because they were thinking realistically. A pension company, like a big company, right? I'm not talking about pensions. I'm talking about a big union. From 30 years ago, people getting union dues, paying their union dues from 30 years, 40 years ago, they would never have imagined that an average wage house, an average wage home, a 3-bedroom and a bathroom, would be $1.2 million. Should be like $260. But everything's empty. That's what they want to do, right? More seniors are being pushed into homelessness because they can't afford the city's high cost of living or find a safe shelter, says the head of the seniors nonprofit organization. Anthony, executive director of West End Seniors Network, said many seniors in Metro Vancouver rely on low fixed incomes such as old age security pensions, benefits, which do not keep up with the rising rent prices. Right there. So how did this happen? Canada wants more Chinese. They want this. Hey, bring in your money. Canada wants more Chinese. Yeah. Canada wants 500,000 per year. But hey, in 2006, 7, and 8, Canada deported 40,000 Portuguese families. People that were actually born in Canada went back to Portugal because they weren't welcome here anymore. They were put on airplanes. They were called down to the gymnasiums. The students in the high schools were called down to the gymnasiums. And their parents had to come in with paperwork. The last time that was done was when Hitler held back all the Jewish students. But they did it to the Portuguese in Canada in 2006, 7, and 8. Don't worry, most of the articles have been taken down since the mainstream media got a $600 million grant from our federal government. But no, 500,000 Chinese per year, lucrative business, more visas could help Canada compete against Australia and New Zealand and UK for Chinese workers, students, lucrative tourists. And they leave all these empty homes. And then what happened? The people that could get out, like myself, Aboriginals and whites leaving Vancouver. There it is, guys. Thousands. 9,345 whites and 460 Indigenous people in 2016 left. 2017, they say it doubled. 2018, it tripled. And it quadrupled in 2019 and 2020. Up until COVID, it's moving fast. And what? Canada would be in a recession without money laundering. Our casinos, $200 billion laundered through Canadian real estate. $200.5 billion laundered through Canadian real estate. And I want to get this word out because this is it. This is what we're competing for. We are selling out our locals so we could bring in fresh money. Why? Because the people that gave themselves to build this infrastructure and gave their lives to build this infrastructure are no longer wanted. They're shown the door, just like the Portuguese in 2006, 2007, and 2008. Get on the plane, get out. Yep. We see adults who have to choose between pay their rent, electric bill, food, and medications. How do you choose between medication that might keep you healthy and having a roof over your head? Some develop mental health issues or choose to take their lives rather than become homeless. Anthony said, the City of Vancouver homeless counts aren't even close to capturing the number of seniors. This is because they may be sleeping on couches of friends or others. He also said the city needs to design shelters that are appropriate for them to sleep in. There are many older adults who cannot get up on a top bunk to sleep in a shelter, Anthony said. Oftentimes, shelters are not perceived as safe places to sleep and stay in, even by younger people. Older adults feel threatened or unsafe in the environments where theft and drugs use have happened. So here's the deal, guys. People need help. People need this. And you know what? Instead of opening the jobs to younger adults and stuff and homeless people, we're just competing for money, man. We're competing for money. And guess what? I spoke to a former manager of a big fast food chain. And yes, they do get applications from local Canadian people or local Americans. And they keep saying that Americans don't want to do these jobs. Guess what? They've been asked to destroy on a weekly or now when they receive the resume to scrap it and throw it in the garbage. Anybody that has education, anybody that has a good background, anybody that qualifies, they play you are overqualified for flipping burgers. But that's all that's available. I really need to feed myself. You're overqualified. They've been asked to destroy people's resumes they've been tens of thousands of locals that apply for the jobs that nobody wants. So they bring in now the other immigrants to come in so they could get pushed around and they could be told they're going to be sent back to their country. I spoke to a guy from I think it was from Iran or somewhere, and he told me he went back to Iran because he came here, he was working at a fast food joint, and he kept getting pushed around by his employers and treated like crap but then if it's somebody like us that gets that job, we'll tell the employer, we'll call social service, we'll call workforce or whatever, WorkSafe BC, because the employer is pushing people around. But it's easier to do it to people that don't know what their rights are, right? So when they keep saying that, locals don't want these jobs, a lot of them do want the jobs. They're just getting their resumes destroyed. That's why we need to set up a separate, like a website, a poll of people who apply to work in these fast food or other positions or service positions that were declined for being overqualified. You'll actually open your mouth like this when you find out how many people were turned away from these jobs. Why? Because they don't want them to form union or assembly. Anyways, City of Vancouver's Director of Homeless Services said the city has been thinking about more ways to capture the number of homeless people rather than walking around the street and asking people. She also said that while shelters are not appropriate for anyone, some seniors enjoy the social aspect. We do have some seniors who like communal living aspects, shelters. No! They're supposed to be living in their own homes, go visit their friends, maybe play a little bit of checkers, maybe play some poker, maybe have a few drinks or two off their pensions. Woody added that while the city program that offers homeless people income support and assistance into social and supportive housing, they do not have a separate program for homeless seniors. The people that basically gave their lives to build this goddamn infrastructure. And guess what? They're being left out in the cold. However, I would say one thing is that we're trying the right now with modular housing is proving single rooms with your own washroom and shared kitchen. Why are people living in prison conditions now? When out of every homeless person in Vancouver, there's 10, maybe 12 empty units, maybe 15. Someone's got to give me a break here on this. In an emailed statement, media officer Lindsay, BC Housing funds programs to support seniors as they move from shelter to senior supportive housing, as well as financial assistance for home modifications through the Home Adaptations for Independence program to assist seniors to maintain independent living. So instead of spending like billions of dollars and sending it to all these countries, why doesn't the government just take care of the people here? Actually take care of the people that put this government in power. Byers also said the province has allocated $66 million towards 600 units modular housing, and they're expanding eligibility benefits safer program where close to 23,000 seniors will benefit. So here's the deal, guys. Let me tell you what the deal is with this. Nobody is building affordable housing anymore. No contractor is building. There's no money in affordable housing for contractors. Contractors want the wealthy Chinese, and a lot of these units are owned by corporate companies, so that there's no name behind it anymore, right? And this is what's destroyed the entire fabric. The opioid, the fentanyl, whatever that's come from China, built in factories, made in factories, owned by the Chinese Communist Party, brought onto the streets of Canada. Killing our youth. No, murdering our youth. Yeah. Taking those profits and reinvesting it into Canadian real estate. Canada would be in a recession without money laundering, right there. So you tell me how this works. Because I'm sick and tired of seeing this. I'm sick and tired of connecting the dots. And the people that end up paying for it, if the average worker or the average wage worker, I'm not talking about minimum wage, if the average wage worker get into an average wage home, like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath for $290,000, $370,000, what it should be worth, instead of bringing in more Chinese to bid on properties, and then everyone leaves the cities, Aboriginals and whites leaving Metro Vancouver. Why? The Aboriginals were there first, and the whites were born and raised there. Why? Because they can't afford to live in their own goddamn cities. I'm sick and tired of this. I need you guys to share this video and get this out there. Share it on whatever social media you're using. I don't care. Get this video out there because it's time. Instead of having these political debates and talking about global warming pipeline, and planting 5 billion trees. Let's just start discussing what's really happening. The opioids, fentanyl, the homelessness, the money laundering. Let's start with the money laundering. If I was Donald Trump and he has a big chip on his shoulder for China, I would honestly start asking all these corporate numbered companies that own a bunch of empty units. A bunch of empty units. Like that story that guy told me. Guy's in a casino in Macau. In Portuguese China. He's in a casino there. Hey, how you doing? Yeah. I'm from Toronto. Oh, good. Yeah. Good to hear from you. Yeah. Buddy goes, yeah, when you're in Toronto, the guy goes, I own 200 apartments, condos in Toronto. And Buddy goes, wow, that's amazing, dude. Hey, if you're ever in Toronto, let me know. We should go out for a drink. Oh, I've never been to Toronto. I've never been to Canada, but I own 200 condo units there. I just leave them empty. Yeah. So if Trump has a chip on his shoulder with the Chinese right now, he should start finding out who owns all these properties and to prove how they purchased these properties. And if they can't, just start repoing them and then auctioning them off for the local Americans. That's what Trump should do. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. We've been used, we've been reused, we've been recycled, we've been thrown around like a rag doll. Comment below, let me know.